my friends, and welcome to Film Fiction Theater. I am Page Turner. Today's story is called El Struggle of Tiny Spikearo by B25. Let's begin. Knock, knock, knock. That's the sound a door makes when a claw or hoof raps against it, in case you didn't know. Twilight rose from the plushness of her sofa to answer the same door. Standing on the other side was the myth, the legend, Spike, the bleeping mofo dragon. Yet only a foot taller than Twilight, with sharper spines running along his back. The same back that Twilight had thrown hooves around. "You're back!" Spike smiled as he began to pat her head. "The train ran without delay, so I'm afraid I'm a bit early." He rubbed the back of his head. "I hope that isn't an issue." Twilight pulled back from the hug, smiling. "Not at all. Care for a cup of tea?" Pulling the door to its squeaky close, Spike stepped into the library that surprisingly had books. "I'd love one, thank you." Stream arose from the sitting cups on the tray. Funny how some drew butts on their ends, so they could actually be sitting. Twilight sure is a witty one, Spike thought, picking up his tea and inhaling its aroma. It smelled like tea. He took a sip, and it tasted like tea. So how's all the great and powerful Twilight Sparkle been? Trying to read without a huge incident or event occurring while doing so. She levitated the cup before her lips and took a sip, before returning it to the tray. I mean her lips, of course. Spike didn't question it. "So, Spike," she began, "how's your adventure going?" He shrugged. "All right. I went to become a famous writer and rapper in Canterlot, but the ponies sprouting the end of the world had better rhymes than I." "Oh?" Twilight returned into proper sitting. "Properly. You know, I always hear about you talking about your writings, but you never show it to me or the girls." Spike averted his gaze as he took a sip, as if it would lessen the weight of his guilt that he held within. Apparently, mental struggles make ponies and dragons double in size. "I'm always afraid what you girls will think. You're all smart with the exception of Rainbow Dash. So I think you'll judge my work accordingly. I'd rather you continued with the illusion that I must be an all-right writer." Twilight leaned forward and fell off her seat. She spoke from the floor. "But if we critiqued it properly and you followed up on it, wouldn't we make you a better writer?" Waves of clarity wiped the collecting filth from Spike's mind, but he refused their goodness wholly. "All right, I'll send you the prologue of my new stories. You can tell what you think." Totally not going ponies to humans and hooves to hands, Lola, you can never know my secret. The tea continued to be tea. Stream continued to be stream. The orange orb in the sky began its descent from the mountainous horizon, casting a glow through the window of the library. "I'm going to blow up that sun one of these days. I wonder if Celestia dies, will the sun die with her?" Weird. "Say, Spike, do you mind if I ask you a quick favor?" "Of course, Twilight." "I've been reading and testing the spell that increases or decreases the mass of objects, and I've been working well so far, but I want to see the effects might be in a real living being. Would you mind being my number one bean for the night?" Spike looked around the library at all the lost of its books. A spell that could possibly not reduce my being at the same time, with a lung exploding inside my body because it had gotten too small to support. I see 1,000 things wrong with Twilight, though my fears have never been one to stop you. And Spike was right. A glow shined around his body as it levitated into the air. The ball began to shrink in size, Spike along with it, floating and floating, smaller and smaller. He landed on the tray, now standing only 2 inches big. He looked around the library. That lengths never seemed to end. The shelves too blurry a distance to even see its dust. A wall of purple fur sat on the other side of the table, with a chest that rose in time with its owner's breaths. Spike picked up his bottom lip and nodded his head at the understanding of the new world. I'm so skewered. Wrong word, a voice boomed from overhead. I'm attached to another object, that inclined plane wrapped helically around an axis, while a presence of everyday ponies now turned goddess. You think I'm a goddess now? Twilight blushed, stretching over the planes of her furry cheeks. Spike took a step forward and erected a claw finger at her. Stop that. Don't do that. She giggled at the newfound energy, away, placing her hooves gently under the tray. Hop on up. It's time you got some sleep anyways. After that experiment, I can use some zzz. Though I'm afraid of a Spider-Man, please no Suze, eating me. Where am I going to sleep anyway? With me, of course, Twilight said brightly. Placing the dragon on her back, it was having a pebble on her back that occasionally yanked on her mane. After Spike had gone through his growth spurt, he could no longer ride her mane like in the early days. The drift that was coming between them hurt her soul. Memories weren't enough to feel the burning love that she had for her dragon. Spike found himself on a mounted purple fur that so happened to move. Beneath it, he could feel her muscles contract with every movement and the shaking of the world around him. The grip on her mane was so strong as one slip, and he would have an hour fall. Yet, with the fear began to die away, Spike found himself chuckling at an experience. Sometimes like this, happening in the way that it happened felt unreal and the product bad writing. And Spike was totally right. Yet the two entered the bedroom and prepared themselves for some fluffy cuddles. And that, my friends, is the struggle of tiny Spikearo. Next time, we might find out what happens next. But until then, adieu.